truck reserve $150,000 to purchase a new fire truck. In lieu of a plaque.
Is the, we already gave the plaque.
I know
We got the plaque in. This is to replace the mini rescue.
Mhm. Yep, and it's a good deal. It's to get the Stonewell to do the whole thing, kind of a custom job, and they're local. So
Oh, it's even better.
anybody once, twice, thrice? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing. And that we move forward with purchasing the fire truck to the tune of $150,000 from the fire truck reserve.
Go ahead.
You go.
You get the next one. Second.
All right, any discussion? Oh, yeah.
Just discussion for the crowd, we have the money that is part of the long-term plan so that we don't have to bond. There's a plan to replace these trucks in a timely manner. And this is part of the process. So we've got the money it's planned for. I say we do it.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, very good. Next up, public hearing number 2, to use money from the police car reserve, $47,000 to purchase a new police car. Same thing, we put away money each year. And the proceeds from the old car goes into that reserve, so. Do we have a motion?
I'll
Or
make a
actually,
motion.
any comments? Anyone have anything to say? Once, twice, thrice, okay.
And again, it was gonna.
I'll make a motion to use the monies for the, for a police car, from the police car reserve of $47,000 to purchase a new one.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right, unanimous. All right, so close the public hearing. The regular meeting. All right, approving the minutes from June 11th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 11th.
It's actually July 11th.
Yeah. Actually, July 11th.
All right,
I'll second that.
discussion, all in favor?
I looked at the minutes. I didn't look at the agenda.
That's all right.
There's that all day.
And next up, authorization of the payment of the bills. F and G fund vouchers, 129 to 150 for $11,152.91. A fund vouchers, 398 to 448. $136,416.41, and TNA fund vouchers 20 to 21, $1,388.44.
I'll make a motion that we authorize payment of the bills as stated.
I'll second it.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's good. Next up, the recreation reports. All right.
We're gonna have 2 concerts this week.
Yes, we are.
Many people are hoping for the second one because it was on plan and everybody jumped to it.
Excellent, excellent.
Is that coming tonight, you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Duke,
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept the June recreation monthly report.
I'll second it.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, next, old business, discuss the LoSAP.
Okay, so Cody was helping me, Cody Johnson, and he pulled all the reports before we had some technical difficulties with the software. And you will see from this, he had an average of 40 people that would have 3.9 years. I have in detail all the people that would have been. And as we re-input November and December of 22, we'll get it all to match again. But we have all of reports out. So if we go back 5 years, The estimate would be 79,000 for the buyback. And if we go back and pay $750 a year, the estimate for a 5-year buyback would be 118,500. The average yearly after the 5-year buyback is either 20,000 for $500 or 30,000 for $750. Jay's gonna be working on where they would normally pay the 20 and 30,000 out. Remember, the 5-year buyback can be done or not be done. It's decided by the board and it can be paid over 5 years. It was, because of the timing of this could not be approved for 2023 to go back. So if the board chooses to move forward, it would start January 1st, 2024, if it's approved at next year's referendum. So what would happen is they'd be earning points all year and they get 2 years to get that first year in 24 or 25. But because we can't get it onto the ballots because of having a public hearing, no matter what you choose, we can't get it on this time's ballots. So it would have to start at the earliest of 2024. And then if you choose to go forward, you would choose the buyback or not. And it could be up to 5 years, 1 year, or up to 5, not at all. And you can choose whichever amount to put out to the public.
Explain to me what this program is. I see $500 a year and you're going back in time?
So in the first year, when you establish a LoSAP,
What's a LoSAP for the people and me?
it's basically a retirement plan for volunteer fire.
Okay.
So what would happen is if it's approved here and then it has to go out to public referendum. So the public has to vote yes.
Okay.
If they vote yes, and what's in there is 500 a year, every fireman who's eligible gets 500 a year put into their account.
Okay.
And it's the requirements to earn for a year is set by New York State. They go January to December. There's no wiggle room. You get so much for each call, so much if you're an officer. So if you don't do everything that's required, and you don't earn the minimum points, you get nothing. If you do them, and again, nobody can play with it because it's set and regulated by New York State. It's all in our software. So every time there's a call, they put in the reports, which says who goes and they earn points or not. Same as meetings and officers and everything. So originally, years ago, this was described as a defined benefit plan, but they've come up with defined contribution plans, which make it more affordable. And it's one way that firemen are recruited and stay in a fire department.
And I see this is buyback, so you're actually going back in time?
You can
versus
go-
Starting it in 24 and start
It can
with 0?
start with 0,
And
or
what are you thinking here?
the board could go back if you choose, is what it is.
I'm not inclined to do that.
I,
I'd rather start fresh personally.
well, which you can only go back 5 years. Or 3 years or 4 years, we can pick.
I
You
didn't see that.
can't go back more than 5.
And
And,
it's gonna be an expense that the voters themselves decide on, right? And
The
right,
voters have to.
Right.
yeah,
So if we did say you did do 5 years, you can't amortize that over 5 years and you don't have to pay the 97,000 in 1 year. You could divide it by 5. So every year, roughly 20,000 would be put in along with the 20,000.
Plus the new.
Yep, which is the 20, if I'm using 500 as an example. And then after the 5 years where it's paid off, then it goes to straight only new. If somebody leaves the plan before they get vested, that goes towards your payments that you would spend the next year. So if you have a new firefighter or someone with only 2 years and then they leave, any of the money that's been contributed for them goes back to the plan and reduces next year's cost.
So we have about 62 members at $500 a year.
Well,
So it's gonna cost over 30,000 a
No.
year.
it won't be all 62 because all of them don't go to calls or all of them don't go to meetings. They don't earn enough points. So the average that have earned it is, as you see on here, is around 40, which is why we rounded it up to 40.
Yeah.
And,
That's
yeah,
good.
and they really did a deep dive into the analysis of who would be eligible, who would not be. I have all the details, but, since it's HR, we don't list off each person's.
That-
So I'm just.
That's my
glad it's
experience.
in
I
there.
don't need one of them. know who they are.
Mhm.
You know, they're firemen, they go into fires, we run out.
Yeah,
They're
And by
brave,
doing the
I love them.
buyback, we're giving credit to the firefighters who've been members of the department for a long time and who have, you know, been putting in the effort to build up the.
No, I
department.
understand, I'm just
Mhm.
thinking of the taxpayers, you know,
and the other thing is,
I think, what are we gonna do, two different options, one start fresh and one is payback?
well, you would have to choose to put it out to referendum. You can't put options. So the board would have to choose which way they want to put it out.
Oh,
But you're not deciding today, because Jay is gonna be looking at his budget and tell us where the 20,000 most likely would come from, or the 30,000. If it was done each year as is, presuming, because the goal isn't to like raise taxes on people, and that, so the goal is to use money we earn. So they would be looking at their budget, Jay's gonna be looking at it, he's on here. So I'm sure he'd tell you.
well, 30K would be 2%, because we only tax 1.8 million.
That's why we look at it.
1% of 1.8 would be, 18,000, so you're talking almost a 2% tax increase. So
That's if we
people
went
gotta
that-
know that.
That's if we went that direction. If we would pull it from the fire department budget as is, kept their budget flat and looked at possibly bringing in from the money that we're putting aside for reserve on vehicles.
Or there's
Or-
other expenses. 'cause
Other
some
expenses,
stuff happens.
yeah.
So Jay's here.
I kind of like the idea, but I'm, right now, I'm for starting fresh.
What-
That would be my take.
Well-
I can be convinced.
The one thing before Jay talks, I will say about going back. You have a lot of firemen who would be over the age and would get no benefits. But if you do the buyback year, they could get the benefits, because that's the one way to include the older benefits. It can only happen right in the first year. So if you have members and we choose the retirement age to be, say, 60, we have members that are 65, they actually could get the 5-year buyback and be members, then every year they would just get a $500 buyout. It wouldn't go into the account. So that's the only good thing about, for sure, of going back. There's other good things, but one of the positives you may not realize. Jay, do you want to add anything?
No, I just want to echo what Tanya said, as far as we have a lot of active members that would kind of miss the boat on this, and I'd like the Dave Barber's Mail Seniors, stuff like that. So the buyback is huge for us. Also, I believe that there's a age that they max out and we don't pay anymore. Is that correct, Tanya?
No, we do keep paying, but they doesn't go into their retirement plan. They get it
It's
as
just-
500 cash.
Just $500. It says
Yeah.
we use the $500 amount, just $500 a year. So,
Yeah,
okay.
so it goes to the plan and the plan cuts them a check for 500.
Well, and it also, this is used for retention more than anything, because of the people are gonna wanna make the calls. I get it, it can be a huge chunk of change, but I mean, looking at the budget and everything like that, it can be done. And I think that, I mean, whatever option you decide to go to, but I think that the 5-year buyback would probably best serve us, especially for our demographic that we have.
Have you identified where you think the money could come from?
I'm looking at it. I don't want to give you real answers right away until I've finished looking at it all, because I'm tailing years past as to like budget for small engines and PPE. Maybe we're at that point where we were setting aside 10 sets a year for every year. Maybe we lessen that because of the membership isn't as stout as when Malin implemented the 10 sets a year. Not saying that we don't need it, because we need to rotate gear through, but we could take, it's like, what is it, Tanya, like $6,000 for a uniform. So there's ways that we can look at it, because I think the retention thing is a big benefit to it.
Yeah,
So at 500 a year, if somebody was in there all the way through to retirement, they could potentially earn 103,000 when they retire and get it because of the earnings that are in, because it's a multiplier. And then you'll see at the 750, it could have gone up to 144,200 if they start when they're young. So it could be a good way to keep some people in and active all the way through.
the fire departments, the volunteer fire departments have been struggling throughout the state of New York. As we were sitting down discussing these things, this is not really a recruitment tool so much as it is a retention tool. And this would be a great retention tool for us. I mean, because if we look, yes, it's a little expensive. It's even more expensive if we have to go to a professional fire department.
Correct.
I'm not against it.
No, but
It's a
yeah,
good idea.
My question is where, let's say we do the 5-year buyback. And I'm actually inclined to do the 750, but, you know, that's me. Where in our budget could we come up with that?
Well, we would have to pay it over the 5 years.
We have to do it over the 5 years.
Yeah,
Okay. And
so-
what is it each year over 5 years?
Well, it'd be about 30,000, little over, if you did the 750. One of the things, whatever is done, if it's done, it can't be changed without going back to public referendum.
Right,
So if you started at 750, you can't go down or up, and if you start, the same thing as if you start with 500. So it would be voted in November for the
So
founding.
if you did the bigger one, you're gonna spend 30K a year
Mhm.
plus the 20 from the 40 people, so
Yeah.
it's gonna cost the village 50 grand a year for
For
5
5
years.
years.
Then it drops down to 20 with inflation.
Yep.
I'm sure the state will keep raising it, because inflation hurts everybody, so that'll go up over time.
Well, and one thing is I can look at the budget and sit down with Tanya, we can figure out where we can come up with the money.
Probably don't have to come up with it all. Something maybe.
just the yearly, but the buyback we would have to come up with.
Well, what I'm saying, yeah, but without messing with the budget too crazy, like adding $30,000 to the budget a year to ask you guys, we can find money to allocate and keep it around the same is what I'm getting at. So it won't
Right, yeah.
really,
No, I mean, I'm in favor of it and, I kind of feel like we're leaning that way. So is there something we're waiting? You said
But Jay has to go through his budget to show where he
to
would take
show
it
it where
from.
you would.
And so, just because this happened to be the timing of the 150th and the convention, it all couldn't come in. And really, what was the point to push when it couldn't get out to referendum
Sure.
at this point? So I would
Sure.
like, take your time and
Yeah,
come back in. We promised to bring something back this one, so Cody did all this work, a lot of analysis.
yeah,
So, and I have actually he gave a whole bunch of graphs to show what they would earn and everything, so
no,
I can send them around.
I mean, I think it's important. I think it's something we should absolutely do. It's, I'm pretty sure the voters will agree.
when can we get this on a referendum?
It won't be to next year
Until next
unless
year.
we do a special vote and you pay for that.
November 2024 then?
Yeah. And so it could start, we would tell, I think it's Penaflex. They would do the public referendum and everything, all the notices for us, it's all in part of the fees. And then, even though the referendum is into November, they would be knowing that if it's approved, it would count for 2024. So they would be earning points. They would have 24 and 25 to earn points.
Okay.
Well,
So,
my recommendation then is I would like to move forward with this so Jay and the fire department can start collecting up points. And then this year for budget, we can budget in, so that way when we put this to referendum in November 2024, we can already say, look, we're covering this. That way our residents don't have to guesstimate what the impact is gonna be. We can show them budget-wise that we can fit this. If it gets voted down, we can put those monies into reserve or reallocate within the fire department. But if it gets voted up, then we're ready to go right from the top.
Okay.
and then
Very good.
if you're doing the buyback, they would know this year, like, you better start making sure you earn the rest of your points too. So,
And that's gonna help the fire department.
Oh, yeah.
I think so, Mayor, you made the point on Saturday that the department would rather have a new truck than a plaque. I think perhaps the members would appreciate this benefit more than newer uniforms or some of the other things that are part of their budget. We cover retirement for the people who work for the government because we want them to get around and this to me is very similar to that, so.
No,
Yeah.
retention is all good. I think the guy said going to East Flyer State deserve it.
At LoSAP is length of service award program.
Oh, okay. Didn't say that, here, but, okay.
I didn't know that either, France, so, but I
Well, you
pretended.
know how it is, the pen flags and.
Yeah,
So
Yep.
that,
there you go.
No, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
For the members. Just gotta figure out how to do it.
So that's what we'll be doing this budget season, you know.
All right, anything else we need to do on this?
So you can, even though it's not approved, get them ready to start earning points in 23 or making sure they know.
Yep, well, we keep track of it anyway, just for our own well-being because of, that's how we keep track of who's involved and everything. So, I mean, that's, but yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Steve. Next up. 3 resolutions for the Newton Water Works water tank.
Started, yeah. If you guys wanna take a look, I passed out an agenda for you all to look at, kind of outline why we're here today, what we're doing. There's a few different things, we're a little busy. So if you all remember, just looking back in May, we started this process, to get ready for an application for WIA and for CDBG funding. So we're looking for grants for that water tank project. So, back in May, you guys passed the intent to be lead agency. You also reviewed the environmental form part 1, and then we went out and notified the interested and involved agencies. We gave them that 30-day period to respond back. That period has now since ended, so we can move forward with the next steps to get everything ready for that funding application. Now, I will note, WIA was supposed to be due this Friday. We're still intending on applying by Friday, but it did actually get pushed back. The governor did push back the deadline to August 11th with all the state of emergencies that have been going on. So in the meantime, though, we've been getting everything ready. So today, the next steps would be to review parts 2 and 3 of the environmental form. Once you review that, the next step would be to make a declaration, environmental declaration. Hopefully it will be a neg deck. So that would be the neg deck resolution that we have in here. And then after that, we would also move forward with bond resolution. So that would be actually passing that bond resolution for the project to move forward. And those are the 2 requirements that we need, this full seeker and the bond resolution to apply for WIA. Now, we're also here today to close out everything that's needed for NEPA, which is what Jay Grasso with G&G needs to do the CDBG application. So if you remember back, I believe at the end of June, I think it was, you all passed a certifying officer resolution. That gave you permission to sign on behalf of the village, all the various documents. We're also going to be taking a look at that today and hopefully passing another certifying officer resolution to get Dan permission to sign on behalf. So that'll be one thing that you guys have already done, but we're going to be re-upping it so that Dan can also sign on behalf. And that would be just, again, one of the necessary documents in order for NEPA. And then after that, Cal, there's 1 document for you to sign, and I think 4 or 5 others for Dan to sign. And that's everything that Jay needs to get that CDBG application complete. So that's kind of the steps of everything to complete today. And I might hand it back over to Dan.
To show you the order of certifying officer resolution first, and the seeker resolution second, and all the seeker documents are behind the seeker resolution. You got those earlier, but they're in a hard copy for you. And then the bond resolution after that.
All right,
So everyone's settled in.
I think we have to review
Good,
first, 2 and 3 first.
yeah.
You want to do the certifying officer first?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Resolution establishing the Village of Homer Village Clerk as the certifying officer for the Village of Homer Water Storage Tank Replacement Project Environmental Review Record. Whereas the Village of Homer, the village is proposing the Village of Homer Water Storage Tank replacement project located in the village and town of Homer, Fulton County, New York. And whereas the village must prepare an environmental review record, ERR, in accordance with regulations governing the CDBG Small Cities, Towns, and Villages program. And whereas the village must appoint an environmental certifying officer to be responsible for the activities associated with the preparation of the EER, Now therefore be it resolved that the village of Homer clerk is hereby designated as the certifying officer for the village's ERR. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is authorized to sign all necessary certifications leading to the completion of the ERR. You guys have to vote on.
We need a motion to accept it. I'll make a motion and we accept the resolution as stated.
I'll second it.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right.
Now go through the secret information. I'll pass it back to you. Exactly.
So for the parts 2 and 3, they're pretty straightforward, so I won't walk through it all like I did for part 1. But if you all just take a look at it, basically outlines any environmental impacts if there were any with the project. Like I said, we reached out to the interested and involved agencies and didn't hear anything back really that affected the project. So the next step would be to review them and make a determination.
And just to recap too, this is a backup storage tank to be put